Hello and a warm welcome. This is Holly live from Kalkine Studios in Sydney, and you're watching our Market Open Report. This is the early trades. Today the S&P ASX 200 is up, gaining 0.33%. The top performers in this index are Zipco, which has climbed over 10%, and Megaport as well, up over 10% as well. Over the past 5 days, the index has lost 0.73% and 8.41% over the year-to-date period. 8 of 11 sectors are higher today despite the decline in the S&P ASX 200 index. IT is the best performing sector, gaining 3.47%. And the ASX is in the green today. And looking at some of the other top gainers in the opening session, Mesoblast has inched up over 8% to trade 8.1% higher, and Life360 is up as well, 7.4%. And Zero Limited has climbed 7.1% higher. Then on the flip side, the stocks bleeding in red include St. Barbara, which is down 7.26%, South32 as well, down over 6%, and Regis Resources has lost 6.6%, while Beach Energy as well has slid around 6%, and then Graincorp has lost 5.68%. And onto the big news of yesterday, the Reserve Bank of Australia has raised the cash rate target by 50 basis points to 1.35%. This represents the second consecutive interest rate hike of 50 basis points and the third consecutive rate hike in 2022. Now looking at some of these stocks making a buzz today in the opening session, the multinational insurance company Insurance Australia Group has finalised its aggregate reinsurance cover for this financial year. The structure of IAG's main catastrophe reinsurance program for the 2022 calendar year, which renewed on the 1st of January, remains unchanged. Meanwhile, the 2023 financial year aggregate cover provides protection of $350 million in excess of $500 million, with individual qualifying events capped at $200 in excess of $50 million per event. The third and fourth event financial year occurrence covers have been purchased to provide $100 million of protection for events greater than $150 million. And shares of Insurance Australia Group were trading 0.59% higher today in the opening session. And the baby formula company Bubs Australia has raised $7.7 million from an institutional entitlement offer, with funds raised at substantial 18.8% discount. Now, Bubs will be proceeding with its retail entitlement offer to raise an additional $22.9 million. And shares of the company were trading 6.25% lower in the opening session. Meanwhile, the residential developer Sunland Group has a forecast full-year net profit of between $92 and $98 million this year. It's also said recent funds raised from allotment sales have been used to pay down unsecured debt. The company will pay a final dividend of 30 cents per share. And in response to this, shares of Sunland Group were trading 8.46% higher in the opening session. Now to some important economic shifts happening around the world. The global market-wide recession fears have outweighed a fundamentally constrained supply market as oil saw its worst trading day in nearly 3 months. West Texas Intermediate crude futures fell more than 8%, the biggest drop since March. Meanwhile, Brent crude futures as well slipped by more than 9%, so we'll be keeping an eye on the sector in the coming weeks. And that is a wrap on the early trades. Stay tuned for more on Kalkine TV. I'm Holly Shields signing off.